comrades, brothers and sisters, welcome to Africa Must Unite. Today we're looking at the conflicts between China and the United States and what is our role in that conflict. Should we, as I heard some people say, should we side with China or should we side with the United States? You already know we will never side with the United States. But the question is not for us who we should side with. I'm Luwezi Kinshasa. I'm the Secretary General of the African Socialist International. African Socialist International is the African People's Socialist Party at large on a global level. We are in Europe, we are in Africa, we are in the Americas. Our intention is to be wherever Africans are. We recognize all black people on the planet are Africans. And we have to fight, that's our primary goal. We have to fight wherever we are for the United States of Africa and the leadership of the African working class. And our party was created in 1972 in Florida, United States, by Chairman Omali Yeshitela, who came to the conclusion that the African Revolution, or what was known as the African National Liberation struggles, have reached their limitations. And there is no way we're going to have a Senegalese revolution, or a Congolese revolution, or a Trinidadian revolution without participation of all Africans across the world in a unified revolution so we can complete the Black Revolution of the 60s. So today, most of you, I suppose, have watched the images, the horrific videos circulated throughout the social media showing Africans being brutalized, being beaten up by Chinese mob on the street of Gansu, I think the city was. And of course, Africans, just like 2 weeks before, when the French scientists say that they should go to Africa and test the vaccines, Africans were upset, angry. But the question, it's understandable that people will be upset, angry, and so on. But the question you have to answer, why the Chinese are violent towards Africans, why the French scientists said what they said, that Africa needs to be vaccinated and things like that. Why? That's the questions. And what the response should be. It's not good enough just to be angry week after week, because next week or next month or next year, you'll be upset again because Africans will be attacked again. If it's not in China, maybe in the United States. The police will shoot Africans live on the TV, will record it, things like that. And that's the question we need to answer. Why is happening? Because we know when we attack in China, we are not attacked because we are Igbo or we speak Igbo or because we don't speak Igbos. When we attack in France, it's not because we are Zulu or we don't speak Zulu. When we attack in our United States or Brazil, when the Brazilian police shoot black people in the favelas, it's not because they are Wolof or any of the ethnicity we are familiar with in Africa. They attacked us, they brutalized us because there are no consequences for them. And the reasons there are no consequences for them, because they know there is no black power. There is no international black power. We don't have that. The Chinese have learned from the Americans. They have learned from the French, from the Portuguese, from the Germans, from the Belgians, and so on. They know you can do horrible things to black people and you will not have to face any consequences. They know that. And we have to be clear on that. And despite the fact that China or the Chinese used to be colonized, oppressed people, but if you go to Africa today, it's not a secret. Everybody knows that Chinese employers or bosses mistreat Africans, just like the Indians, the Lebanese, the Europeans. That's in Africa. This not in China. This in Africa. Because as I say, it's not good enough to be upset when Africans are being attacked in China, but in Africa itself, it happens every day. And it happens with the complicity of the African rulers. Everybody knows that the Chinese business people or the Lebanese business people or the Americans, you name it in Africa, can get you arrested. They have the contacts of your generals, your MPs, members of parliaments, your judges. They have all the contacts. They give them credit for cell phones, mobile phones, things like that. They support the children, education in the most expensive schools, things like that. They have power over you in Africa. Then why are we surprised when they do things like we have seen in China, when they do it in Africa already? So if you're upset, if you're really upset, you go solve this question. How can we achieve international black power? That's something should be in your mind. Not just be upset and go back to, business as usual and waiting for the next aggression of black people to be on the television for you to say something needs to be done. We've seen African president making some statement. That's hypocrisy, pure hypocrisy. Because the same African president, you know it, every year they go to China, beg for money, beg for aid. They contribute to the humiliation of Africans, of African personality, by going there every year, not even going there in a unified fashion. They go there, all of them 50-something, but the Chinese president hosts them individually before they take a final picture with all of them. So the Chinese people have seen that the African president have no power. They have no, dignity. So this is a part of the consciousness of the people in China. And we have to understand that too. So, and it's really important for us to understand all those things. But Africans also need to know that before we talk of these brutalities happening to Africans in China, before the Europeans attacked Africa and colonized Africa, we have to be aware that Africa, in fact, in the context of what's going on between China and the United States, between China and Africa, Africans have to be aware that Africa is the birth of humanity. It's also a birth of world civilization. The first civilization came from Africa. I think this is really important because most Africans and most people on the planet, particularly in Europe, they have internalized the narrative of China being an old civilization, a civilization of a millennium. They speak of China like that. And you will never hear anybody saying that Africa is a place of 100,000 years of civilization. You will not hear anybody saying that. You will not hear, there is no popular view in the world. There is no, in the consciousness of the people of the world, that Africa at one point provided leadership to everybody, to all humanity. In terms of sciences and languages, we did all those things. But today, because of colonialism, this has been undermined, this has been removed from the people's consciousness. And it's really, really important for us. And I want to read something to you because we are African Internationalists, which means we have the science of studying the world and changing it. We have the science not just of studying the world, but we have identified that this parasitic system, this parasitic capitalist system, has at its foundation colonial slavery. And the African people and the African nation is the cornerstone of that. So African internationalism tells us that for us to go forward, we must remove the pedestal upon which the entire system sits. And you cannot move forward if you do not grasp the essence of the relationship between the African nation and the parasitic capitalist system. We are at the foundation, the pedestal. If you end the colonization of an African nation, you will bring down the entire system. That's what we do say. Africa is not free yet. Forget about the so-called independence of Africa. That was an agreement between the oppressor, the imperialist rulers, and the African people bourgeoisie, which is in power, the bureaucrats and the compradors from the African people bourgeoisie. It's that class that is responsible for betraying Africa and for extending the colonization of Africa. So I'm going to read something here from ancient Africa, from ancient Egypt. These quotes is found in what they call the Rind papyrus. And it's somewhere in Moscow, I think. And it was written in 1540 before Christ. So 1540 BC, 1540. So, and it was written by a scribe called Amis. And he said this, defining mathematics. According to him, basically, the mathematics is the correct method of investigation in nature to know all that exists, each mystery, all the secrets, the right method to get into things, to know all that is, all darkness, all secrets. This is some, 15th centuries BC. And this was a copy of something that existed already. So it's not that Amis wrote it then, he just copied. It was updating what existed already. I just want to say that because we have to be aware that we were scientists. And for us to be free, we have to become scientists again. From the masses to the rulers, all of us have to be scientists. And since the ruling class, it has to be the African working class. So it means the whole nation will be a nation of scientists. So that's really important, that we have to associate Africa, black people, our struggles with science. That's really important. So I just want to read that because we have to rehabilitate Africa as a center of science, of civilization, as it used to be. So this is also part of the struggle, how the world is going to perceive Africans in the future. So now, for us basically to go forward, we can't just complain, but we have to solve the problems. We have to be powerful. We have to achieve power. And this is really important because China now is no China of 100 years ago or even before the revolution. The China of today is a product of the Chinese Revolution, because we need to understand how the Chinese solved the problem. They solved the problem by making the revolution under the leadership of the Chinese Communist Party in 1949. And China was unified. During that time, I think there were about 400 million people. The Chinese Communist Party unified the Chinese people. And today they are 1.4 billion strong. And today they are able to challenge the power of the United States and the power of the entire Western nations. And it's the success of China today that is causing this change in a balance of power between nations. The success of China is a major force. Today we talk about COVID-19 is because of the success of China. United States doesn't know how to do it. They want to disrupt China. But China, as I said, today is a nation strong, 1.4 billion people strong. And Chinese, not only they made the revolution, but they also engaged on the road of industrialization. They have to industrialize China. They have done that. I know when I was growing up, someone, Edry, a grandfather of my friend, he used to tell us, how can you have some 30 million people in the Congo and you're starving? But that was then, some 30 years ago. But in China, there are 1 billion people of them, nobody's starving. Because China has engaged on a road of development, of progress, of industrialization. And Africa, we are told, has achieved independence. But when you look in 60 years, is misery everywhere. To the point that the people are saying colonial era direct white power was better than today. Even when you go to places like Zimbabwe or South Africa, because they are the newest countries basically to be free from direct colonial white rule, people already are telling us direct white rule was better than what they're going through today. The only force to say that life is better for them is the African petty bourgeoisie, because today they are the ruling class. In South Africa, they are the ruling class in Zimbabwe today, but nothing has changed for the people. And also the settler colonizers have kept control of the industry, of the mining and things like that. So what China basically has done, it has overturned the Chinese bureaucrats, the comprador class, and replaced them with the rulers from the Chinese Communist Party. And China inspired the whole world at some point. Everybody who was growing up in the 70s and 60s, can witness that. But you can't say nothing that to inspire the world out of Africa today, because of neocolonialism, because of the betrayal of the African ruling class today. That's just the reality we're going through. And so in the conflict between China and the United States, our role is not to join any of those powers. Our role is to do whatever we have to do to achieve power for ourselves. It's only by achieving power over ourselves that we can have relationship as equal with any other nation. In fact, Africa being free, which means the revolution being successful, the world will be changed forever. Because an African nation free, there will not be the existence of oppressor nations and oppressed nations. That will not exist anymore. So our job basically is to deepen the crisis of imperialism so that we can change the conditions so that Africans can be in a position where we can facilitate our own agenda. And our agenda is black revolution, or revolution to achieve black power. Revolution is our agenda. So we should not allow anybody else to remove revolution from our agenda. That's us. this has to be the driving uh, uh, force, basically, for our people. And we know when we say the question for us is not the truth side. If you look at what's going on in Africa today, you will see the United States and China. Not only they are in a rivalry for control, for access to raw material and other things in Africa, but across the world, everywhere, in Asia, Latin America, in the Middle East, you have United States and China. There are other powers too, but it's definitely China that's making really the difference. The appearance of China on the world stage, the necessity for China to have access to raw material so that they can maintain the industrialization is really making the big difference. Today, China is the first trading partner in Africa. No long time ago, it used to be United States, it used to be France, it used to be UK, but today it's China. And if I read you some of the figures I have here today, here I get that from CNBC.com. The combined total value for African trade with the US in 2017 was just $39 billion, making it Africa's third largest trading partners behind China and the European Union. This, the change of balance, between basically nations in the world. The balance of power is changing. So these just one statistics. They're telling you the world is not what it used to be anymore. China today is the number one trading partner of Africa. I'm using the bourgeois term, trading partner. Now, the total value of Chinese investments and construction in Africa is closing in on $2 trillion since 2005, according to the American Enterprise Institute, the AEI. China Global Investment Tracker. The value of China-Africa trade in 2017 was $148 billion, down from a high of $215 billion, compared to $39 billion from the United States. You can see China is leaving United States behind in Africa. And this is not just the only place where you see the contention, the war of influence, the trade war between United States and China. You all heard of One Belt, One Road. That's not a strategy of China to achieve influence, and the United States is responding wherever they can. They make sure there is war, there is instability, so the Chinese cannot build One Belt, One Road in that area. You have military bases like in Djibouti. Djibouti is in the eastern part of Africa, and they just by the Red Sea. And Red Sea is one of the key strategic shipping lane or sea routes where most of the traffic coming from Asia had to go through before they reach the Suez Canal in Egypt, and then they can go to Europe. If not, then all the boats from China, from India have to go all the way to South Africa and around Africa on the west and up to North Africa, then go to Europe. So it's a strategic place. And in Djibouti, you have three military bases are there. You go the United States military bases, you go to Chinese military bases, and you also have the French military bases. I think the Japanese also just acquired a military base there. So it just shows you that Africa is the battleground for all major predators. Everyone who wants to be in Africa, not only they come with the African plan, which include having military forces. So military bases in Djibouti, just one example of that. You have this fight, who's going to control the World Health Organization, which is up to Donald Trump suspension of U.S. parts. Was basically funded by the U.S. ruling class. Not just the United States government paid something like $500 million, but Bill Gates also paid something like 400 million of pounds. So it's a lot of money. And there is a battle there. Who's going to have influence? Who's going to determine the direction for World Health Organization? Who's going to use it to facilitate their own interests? You have the Asian Investment Bank and the international currency. You know, the IMF and World Bank has been dominated by the United States and its allies from the white nation, Britain, the French, and all that. But China created the Asian Investment Bank to rival IMF and World Bank. And at one point, if the United States told all its allies that you should not join, nobody should join that, but Britain crossed the line, joined the Asian Investment Bank. This is all part of the conflict between the two. So when someone said, what side should we join? So our job is not to facilitate China or United States policies inside the World Health Organization, or to facilitate military bases in Africa for them, but is to fight for black power, to facilitate our own agenda, to educate our own people, that we need our own response. We need our own solution. It has to be a unified African solution. It has to be a revolutionary solution. It has to be a solution that mobilizes the African workers and the peasants. The poorest sectors for all African communities around the world have to be united in one trajectory, the Black Revolution, led by the most revolutionary sector of our society, of our community, of our nation, the African working class, organized inside the African Socialist International. That is the response we need to drive, because I'm saying you have all this conflict, and that's giving you some of the manifestation of that. Huawei and the 5G. There's a battle going on between the United States and China, between China and also UK and the other Western nations. Who should control the 5G. We have the protest movement in Hong Kong. You also that's the United States there trying to disrupt China. So our job, as I said, is not to join the Hong Kong protesters against China, because it does not facilitate our interests. So we should do what to facilitate our own interests. You have, the position, towards Taiwan. Taiwan used to be part of China, and at the moment is not. And the Chinese government wants them back to be part of Taiwan, of China. So you have all these places where the United States use Taiwan to facilitate their interests. So we are not going to join the United States in their fight against China. As I said all along, we have to use this crisis to make it worse, so that the system can come down. When I say make it worse, it means take advantage of it, make ourselves strong, build our capacity, reach out everybody, win all Africans, win the African workers, win allies, go speak to the white people, win white people to black revolution, win Chinese people to black revolution, win Indian people to black revolution, win everybody to black revolution. Because if you want genuine development, it has to be development for the whole humanity, not development for some nations at the expense of others. It has to be a revolutionary solidarity. And African internationalism offers genuine solidarity to everybody who unite with revolution. In fact, if you want to know how someone is genuine, how someone is sincere, how someone is truthful, if you want to know, you have to see if they're united with the black revolution. That's how you know if someone is progressive or not. If they're united with black power. Because black power is the power of the work, it's the power of the people at the pedestal to destroy the pedestal upon which the entire system sits. So that's really something very significant. So we want people definitely just to be aware of that. Uh, there is also the relationship between Africa and China around the loan. You know, Africa today owes China $143 billion in loans. How can you be in solidarity with oppressed people, oppressed nations, and ending up having them to owe you so much money? The truth is that because China is using the same parasitic capitalist system where you have access to the raw material, the price are not fixed by Africans, where you use the loan system, the terms are defined by by the creditor, basically the one who's giving the money, and you cannot have equal relationship like that. And that's why the African president, as you know, the African ruling class contribute to the perception of Africans as a poor, powerless, as subhumans, and all these, perception that colonialism has created because of the power Europe has imposed on us in the last 600 years. So we want to put an end to that. That's why we have really to be really clear that our job is for everyone who's listening, anyone who can unite with the goals of African Socialist International, anyone who wants to see Africa to be free has to unite, in fact, with the goals and objectives of the African Socialist International. Because this is the way we will change the world. This is the way Africa can recover its place as a center of civilization, as the center of humanity as it used to be. But it can't happen otherwise. Short of revolution, it will not happen. Short of black power, and yes, be international power. We're not talking of revolution in one place. We're talking of united African nation whose home is Africa, which means it doesn't matter if you're Africa or not. If you're black, you're part of that revolutionary process. That's what we want you to join. You don't have to be in Africa. You can be anywhere you are, but you can join this process, this trajectory we're trying to lay out to you, so you can know there is an answer to all the things you see around you, to all the injustice you see around you, to all the oppression you see around you, everything the black people are going through around you. There is an answer. The answer is revolution, and revolution begins by first building the organization that will build the capacity for the people to make the revolution. We have the philosophy. We are African Internationalists. There is a revolutionary theory developed by Chairman Omali Shela throughout his leadership in the last 50 years in the struggle. So is the rising world today. And this rising world, basically, the light of it is African internationalism. If you want to know the trajectory of it, if you want to know the tenets of it, you have to embrace that philosophy. If you want to see a new world, you have to embrace it. So that's basically why we're here today. It's basically not just to discuss the issue, but also to share with you how you can be part of the change. How can you be part of building a new process, a new world? A new process will lead to the new world. Today, China's labor is for Chinese nation. You know, China has a population of 1.4 billion at least. That's a huge market. That's a huge labor force. With that labor force, you can do anything. But if you look at the African nation, there are more of us than Chinese. 1.5 billion, maybe more. But at least we know in the 20 years, the African population will be more than 2 billions. But what we know is that the Chinese labor is for the Chinese nation. But the Africans' labor is not for the African nation. It doesn't matter if you're in Africa or outside of Africa. The African labor is for somebody else. But labor is the number one wealth. If there is no humans, you can't struggle for humanity. So humanity, the people, are the first wealth. So our labor wealth does not belong to us. So if you are angry about Chinese brutalizing Africans, you should be more angry that Africans' labor is not in our hands. African labors go to build everybody else. Build the United States, build Canada, build Brazil, build Europe. Now it's building China too. This is just a reality. Every time you pay the loan to China, you're paying because your labor is transferred in the loan that you're paying back. If you're taking your resource away, going to China, going to the United States, going to Europe, wherever the raw material is going, it's not just the raw material is going to be processed elsewhere and rich people outside, but it's also your labor that's going with our raw material, which means we cannot develop. We cannot develop. So we need to make the revolution so we can keep our labor and develop ourselves. And that's the difference. If China is a part of global, is a global power today, defining what the world looks like, because everywhere you see there is a crisis or there is development of significance, China is present. China is happening in Pakistan, China is there. Investment is happening in Europe, China is there. Students are becoming a key part of keeping universities in the United States afloat. China is there. So China is becoming a key power in the world and causing the decline of the United States-led white power, which is good. Africans should not be sad about the decline of the United States as a world power or the decline of white power. You should not be sad about it. We have lived with it for 600 years. We know what it is. And anyone who wants to be free have to make sure the United States goes down. Because if you want to be free, the first country to be opposed to your freedom is going to be the United States. Who is opposed to Venezuela's freedom? United States. Who is opposed to Cuban freedom? United States. Who is opposed to Gaddafi being the president of Libya? United States. It doesn't matter where you are. The United States is always that power that is opposed to freedom of oppressed people. So now I gave you the dates. The Africa owes to China $142 billion. That was 2018. By now I'm not sure what it is, but surely it's gone up. But if you look at the dates of the United States towards China, is $1,205 billion. Yes, you heard. $1,205 billion. And they also owe a similar amount to Japan, which is $1,197 billion. So over 3 trillion of debts, which tells you the crisis of imperialism began well before COVID-19. Because to be in a debt of, it's not even 3 trillion, because I'm only giving you 2 countries. I'm not quoting you other countries. To have a debt of over 3 trillion, you cannot have a normal economy. You can't. But, so, our job is not to facilitate, the situation for the United States, to understand what we need to do to deepen that crisis. So we have to demand a reparation for the Africans in the United States, for Africans around the world. Wherever the United States has stolen labor, caused genocide, we have to support the structural reparation. That's really critical, because we have to deepen that crisis, that we need our money back. We need the price of our labor to be paid. That's how we deepen the crisis. That's what we organize in the United States. Our party, the ASI in the United States, organize white people so we can deepen the crisis of the United States government. We got white people going in the white community, raising the question of reparations, that the wealth of the United States is the stolen wealth. It's a stolen wealth of course, on a stolen land. That's how we deepen the crisis. So that is part of our response. So we want to repeat that our job is not to say we're going to support the United States against China, or we're going to support China against the United States, but to be informed by our own material interests. Our material interests will inform us what should we do towards the United States or towards China. Just like China, when they take position, they are informed by their own material interests. I'll give you some example just to illustrate that. You know, at one point before the Chinese Revolution, Chinese Communist Party under Mao made an alliance with the nationalists and also with the United States against Japanese invaders, because it was in the interest of Chinese nation to be freed from Japanese occupiers. But after the revolution in 1949, the situation have changed. The Chinese Revolution recognized the United States as the main enemy of the Chinese nation. And also, China and the Soviet Union, the former Soviet Union, became allies, friends. Before the Chinese Revolution and after Chinese Revolution, of course, there were problems between their alliances. But the point I'm trying to say here, before, let's say toward the end of 1960s, the Chinese leadership met with the leadership of the Black Panther Party because they supported the struggle of black people in the US. The Chinese Communist Party supported the struggle for all colonized people on the planet. But towards the end of 60s, early 70s, the Chinese, who used to be the enemy of the United States, who used to be a friend of the Soviet Union, split from the Soviet Union and became partners with the United States. Nixon met with Mao. The opening of China began then. China, who supported the Lumumbists against neo-colonial forces in the Congo. Now in 1972, Mao Zedong met with Mobutu. Not only met with Mobutu, trained some of Mobutu's forces. Not only that, Soviet Union pursued their own interests. They supported forces like the ANC, MPLA, and so on. But the Chinese, under Mao, start supporting Mobutu and Mobutu's allies, working for the United States, like in Angola. You've got the Soviet Union supporting the MPLA, the Chinese supporting FNLA and UNITA. All these things are documented. Don't take it from me. Chinese denounced apartheid, but at the same time collaborated for apartheid. It's documented. They pursue their own material interests. They want to industrialize China. They want to become a center of world economy as they used to be. That's what the Chinese said all along. That's really important for us to grasp. Every state, every nation in the world split between oppressor nation and oppressed nation pursue their own interests, particularly the oppressor nations. That's why we want a new world. We just don't want to be free. But we want a new world where there is no slaves and master slaves, where there are no colonizing nations or colonized nations. That's the mission of Africa. The mission of Africa is to change the world, to change humanity, to bring a new civilization based on the power of the workers. That's the mission of Africa. Africa has no mission, has no intention, has no interest in creating a world based on oppression and exploitation. No world based on opportunism. And that's what African internationalism is. Is the philosophy of fighting against all forms of opportunism you may see in the world. So that's why we are really clear on what our mission is. And you know, our people need to understand when we say we want power, when we say we want a black power, people also need to understand why we don't have black power. Because the explanations we have, all kind of explanations given to us. We don't have good governance, stupid things like that. Of course, the petit bourgeoisie is not concerned about good governance. They are there to fill their pocket. That's their job. We don't have enough investment. But against our will, the developments, the birth of the white nation is a black people's investment. It's our labor that created that. It's our talents create all those nations. The raw material of Africa, that's our investment, stolen from us. But I want to talk specifically here about the numbers. The power of China, the power of India is the numbers. They don't have the amount of resources Africa has. But if you look at an African nation dispersed, the numbers given to about our numbers is about what, 1.5 billion. But we are the oldest civilization. We are the oldest population. Our number shouldn't be that. Our number should be overwhelmingly more than any other number. But it's not. Why is it not? Colonial slavery, the 600 years. Can you account for all the missing Africans? Can you make an estimate? All the missing Africans. How many Africans are missing? From 1415, from the day the Portuguese captured Ceuta in Morocco and initiated this process that's created what we call parasitic capitalism system today. Can you account for all the missing Africans? Every year, between 250,000 to 400,000 babies under the age of 5 years old die because of malaria. Can you just make that in 10 years? Can you project that in 20 years? You see how many Africans? It's been going on since before I was born. Since colonization, all this malaria business. How many Africans have died? On AIDS alone, 35 to 40 million people have died. Over 70% are Africans. This gives you some 25 million Africans are missing. If you take just the war in the Congo, since 1996, imposed on us by the United States government with the death squad called the Rwandan and Ugandan army, they are nothing but death squad for the United States. 10 million people dead. That's 10 million missing Africans. And we die every day from curable diseases. We die from colonial disease like diabetes, you name it. Around the world, from South America to North America, from Europe to Africa, through Asia, Africans are dying because of those colonial diseases. You know how many Africans are missing? You know how much wealth those Africans will have created if they didn't die so early? You want to understand why Africa's poor? You want to have an account of those missing Africans? Africans who are in prisons, denied the natural right to produce, to procreate. You know how much wealth that's missing from the African nation? Africans who are unemployed. You go to places like, you go to Sierra Leone, you go to Congo, you go to those places. You see the young population, up to 60, 80% unemployed? How can you be unemployed when Africans are so poor? When we don't have all the infrastructures we need? All this is the missing Africans, is the missing wealth. I can't even count for all those Africans who have been made incapacitated by, depression, powerlessness, and things like that. So, revolution, the role of the party, the ASI, is to galvanize African communities around the world, bring everyone back to the road of national liberation struggle, start to rebuild the black economy. If you understand what I'm talking about, just go on our website, go on burningspear.com, look for Black Power Blueprints. You see the developments, what the economy of an African nation should look like. This is the magnificent work being done by DC Honor. She represents a lot. Not just the emerging black leadership, what the African woman can do, what the African Academy looks like, what the African Internationalist looks like. Look at that project. It's just one example of things you need to look for. So, our job, our role, is to become revolutionaries. How can you see the suffering of our Africans around the world and you come to the conclusion the only thing you want to do is become a basketball player or a footballer? You can choose to do that, that's all right. But what I'm trying to say here, the vision of the youth, just like the vision of the Chinese youth, is not to become a footballer in Spain or a basketball player. The vision of the youth of China is determined by the Chinese Communist Party. Long time ago, under the leadership of Mao Zedong, China has to become powerful, industrialized, a world power. That's the vision they have. So the same, if you join us, you will become like the leaders, the young leaders in our organization, like Director Akile, who's over the acid drop in the African Socialist International. That's the vision young people should have. Build our own capacity. Olok Tafari, the chairman of our party in South Africa, mobilizing across Africa to build this new vision, to build this new organization, the African Socialist International. That's where we are. As I say, the Chinese Communist Party had the Mao Zedong, who solved the problems for the Chinese Revolution. We have Chairman Omali Stella, who solved the problems of the African Revolution. And I want you probably have seen the Chairman Omali already, because some of you may have seen the video where he spoke in Oxford. You may have seen that. You might not just have made a connection. That's where I'm coming from. So that's really important for us. It seems there are comments or questions. So the first thing I want to remind you, or I want to inform you, today there is a really great program you can't miss. It's Black is Back webinar on death sentence, the state of Louisiana, black prisoners and COVID-19. It's today 5 p.m. UK time. That will be 12 noon if you're Eastern time. I don't know about the other ones, but it's today 25th April. And the panel, you're going to have the chairman of Mali Stella, chair of the Black is Back, Lisa Davis, Black is Back vice chair, Ralph Pointer, political prisoner, working group chair, Dr. Zena Crenshaw, Black is Back member. And so please, the link has been added to the comment box already, so you can from there you can make your way there. And we have a comment from Papa Mike. I agree, we are attacked as black people because we have no collective power to respond. Yes, we were. And we're also asking you to support the movement, to build black power I've been talking about all along. We all know we are in a crisis caused by colonial COVID-19. And we provided a response in terms of black ink. And we have launched the People's Wars project initiative throughout the world, basically. It needs your support. So you need to go to All African Peoples Development and Empowerment Project. That's AAPDEP, AAPDEP website. And please donate. Be generous. Donate. Support this project. And if you're in London, get it straight in touch with us, like some of you are doing already, so we can begin to build our capacity wherever we are, particularly in London. So you can contact us on our 077 23 062 486 077 23 06 486. Development for Africa is the update website. That's a precision. Development for Africa is the update website. So we're going basically towards the end of our program. I just want to remind you that we are in defining time. And what you do makes a difference. What you do determines if Africa is going to be free or not. By that I mean your decision to join or support this revolution, to support the leadership of this revolution, which is the African Socialist International, is in your hands. The world can't wait. Our people is calling for freedom. Our children are crying for freedom. Their pain is a cry for freedom. And we can't continue to tolerate this. So I'm calling to everyone, make the move today. Join, support, donate, but don't be neutral. Because we can't be neutral between the conflict between China and the United States. Our position, build our own power. Build our own power so we can be in a position to engage any powers in our own terms. And we are in unity for anybody who is in solidarity with us. Any nation is going to be in solidarity with the African revolution. We're going to be in support with them too. You know, I just want people to be clear on that. There might be other aspects that I couldn't touch on. There are many things I left out. But I think we're just pressured by the time. And if you have any question, send it to us. And maybe we'll be able to talk to you or answer your question. As I said, I'm really conscious that there are things that are left out because time really is limited. So I just want to say thank you to all of you for taking the time to join in to follow this program. So we're looking forward to see you again next Saturday at the same time, 12 noon UK time. Uhuru.